Hey, good Tuesday evening to you. Thanks for watching Wgxa News at 10. I'm Aaron Leedy. New tonight, two men are still on the run after the Bibb County Sheriff's Office says they robbed a woman at gunpoint in broad daylight. Wgxa's Jayla Whitfield is live at the scene where it all happened. Jayla, what did they take?
Aaron, it all happened right behind me in this CVS parking lot in North Macon. What I can tell you is it happened around 10 a.m. Sunday morning. The woman was leaving CVS when she was robbed at gunpoint and her car was carjacked along with other belongings. Now, community members tell me they're completely shocked. Carjacked and robbed in broad daylight. Jane Pickinson says it could have been her.
Came to fill a prescription about noon on Sunday and everything seemed normal.
Pickinson was at the CVS on Northside Drive and Forest Hill Road 2 hours after a woman was carjacked.
I was very shocked. It normally doesn't occur, especially in this neighborhood.
It happened Sunday while the woman was leaving CVS around 10 a.m.
Totally shocked that there would be a carjacking right here in broad daylight.
Two men approached her, held a gun to her face and said, "Don't do anything or I will shoot you." They took her phone, vehicle, and personal firearm that was stored in her car.
I'm shocked. I am totally shocked and surprised. This normally is a pretty crime-free area.
The crime was not caught on camera because CVS does not have cameras outside the building.
Oh, I wish every business around here had cameras. That would be a help, I think.
And for the suspects, they're still at large. Now, deputies describe that vehicle as a Toyota RAV4, a 2019 red model. Now, if you have any information, this is still an ongoing investigation, so please contact the Bibb County Sheriff's Office. But for now, live in Macon, Jayla Whitfield.
You always think that it happens out there somewhere, but not right here in your own school.
That was the reaction from a parent last year when she found out her children attended a school where their teacher was facing charges of child molestation, and now he is facing 15 years in prison. That's just part of the punishment handed down to former Jones County teacher Witcher Tate Wilson after he pleaded guilty. Now, Wilson was indicted back in May on 6 counts of child molestation from incidents dating back to last year. Wilson was sentenced to 30 years, 15 of which will be spent in prison, and he must also register as a sex offender and surrender his teaching certificate. Now, we asked you on social media to weigh in on Wilson's punishment. Here's what many of you had to say. Clay writes, "I pray for everyone touched by this, but especially for the children." Angel writes, "I think he should have gotten more time, but he got more than some." Let us know your thoughts. Head over to the WGXA.TV Facebook page and leave your comments on that story you see right there. New at 10, a woman is in critical condition after a shooting in Macon this morning. Deputies made an arrest earlier today, and WGXA's Brooke Moore has the updates tonight. Brooke.
Aaron, this morning at Pendleton Homes, a 21-year-old woman was shot by her boyfriend. According to the Bibb County Sheriff's Office, she is currently listed in critical but stable condition. Now, according to the Sheriff's Office, the victim's 20-year-old boyfriend, Broderick Felton, is responsible for this. He has been arrested and charged with aggravated assault. Bibb sheriffs say that the two were arguing when Felton shot her. Now, we spoke with one neighbor on his reaction to the violence and what he hoped changes.
Get the gun laws changed. Point blank, get the gun laws changed. There's too many clean people buying guns, selling them to the, you get what I'm saying? Selling them to the people that don't need them. And that needs to stop. They'll buy them and then go holler they were stolen. But they be done sold them to somebody. And these young people, they getting guns, teenagers are getting guns. Where in the world are they getting them from? They gotta be getting them from a source like that.
This is the third shooting in Macon since Friday. Now, the other two shootings are still under investigation, so anyone with any information is encouraged to contact the Bibb County Sheriff's Office or Macon Regional Crime Stoppers. In the studio, Brooke Moore.
This is Jake Mammon here in the Skywatch Weather Center on this Tuesday evening. Welcome in, everybody. I'm in for Chief Meteorologist Jeff Cox. Well, I know many of you are probably like, when is fall going to get here? It's officially fall, but when is it going to start feeling like that? Well, I got some news for you. I don't think it will be, at least for the next several weeks. In fact, today, we did it again. Middle Georgia broke another record, 98 for the high today, which breaks the record of 96 degrees set back in 1993, 61, and 31. So it was another warm day across Middle Georgia, and it has been for the last week and a half. Notice we broke a record back on Tuesday in the triple digits of 103, and of course today we broke a record of 98 degrees, so we've done 2 records within a week. It's been a very warm and hot September, and I think it's going to last through the end of this month and probably to begin the month of October. So we'll have more on that coming up in a little bit. But right now, temperatures across Middle Georgia, we're in the mid to upper 70s, a couple lower 80s, 79 there in Sparta, 75 in Gray, 76 in Macon, 82 in Roberta, and then 81 down there in Americus. So it's still a little bit toasty. We're starting to cool off, though. But like I was talking about, look at this temperature trend versus the average, okay? The average is 84 degrees, but notice for the next, 10 days or so, we're well above average with temperatures in the mid to upper 90s through the weekend and to begin the month of October. And it's not uncommon to be in the 90s to begin October. School day forecast, 68 at the bus stop tomorrow, mid to upper 80s by lunchtime, and then mid 90s for the ride home. Coming up in just a few minutes, still feels like summer. I'll have more on how long the heat will last. Any rain in sight? I'll answer that in the tropical update. That much and more coming up in just a few minutes.
Developing tonight, no one is above the law. Those were the words of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi after announcing an official inquiry of impeachment into President Donald Trump. This comes after a controversial phone call to Ukraine's president in which Joe Biden was discussed. A note from Pelosi's office also says the House will vote to disapprove of the Trump administration's blocking of the related whistleblower complaint from Congress. We'll have much more coming up from Washington in just a few moments. Meantime, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is calling for Republicans to investigate that whistleblower complaint involving President Trump. Schumer's letter to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell asks for a hearing, and he wants big names like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Director of National Intelligence Joseph McGuire to testify. In our question of the day, we asked, what grade would you give the president's foreign policy? We have those results from our website. 59% of you voted with a grade A, 31% grade B, 10% with a grade C. Let us know what you think at wgxa.tv. An update on an overturned cargo ship here in Georgia, straight ahead, where spilled oil and fuel are now turning up. Tonight, as Suicide Prevention Month comes to an end, the issue is ongoing. Tiffany Gray tells the story of a Georgia family who lost a loved one and how they want to make sure nobody else has to go through what they did.
Jonathan Busbin. His family describes him as loving, bold, and adventurous. At a very young age, he knew he wanted to serve our country.
He was a really happy kid. He loved to play Army 24/7. Everywhere he'd go, he had on a little play gun.
At 17, Jonathan joined the Army, where he served for 3 years. He became an airborne infantry. But it was when Jonathan got out of the Army when things seemed to change.
And after the Army, he was still Jonathan, but there was a little bit that changed about him. He became very upset with himself and almost let it consume him.
Jonathan took his own life.
After John's death, I went and I gathered up all kinds of research, all kinds of things on treatment programs and stuff to save Jonathan. And I found myself stuck with all this information, and I can't save Jonathan.
The Busman family is sponsoring John's Mission for 22 to celebrate the life of Jonathan, as well as spread awareness for veteran suicide.
Days where I want to talk to John, I want to talk to him, and I want to tell him, hey, I want to find a solution to this problem. I want to find ways to get you help. I want to find ways to prevent this bad thing from happening, but the bad thing did happen. I can't go back and I can't change it. So what I want to do is to tell others and maybe spread a little bit of awareness so that no one would have to go through what our family has.
And I think more people should support suicide awareness. Support more suicide awareness, there'd be less suicides.
Hopefully, the Busman story and their push to help save the lives of those who serve our country will save others before it's too late, so another family won't have to lose their own Jonathan. For Fox 31, I'm Tiffany Gray.
I'm James Rosen in Washington, which is in the grips of impeachment fever after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's dramatic dinner time announcement. But how much did she really change the state of play?
Now, a man has been arrested and charged with murder in connection to the death of his uncle in Randolph County. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation says Oscar Aycock Jr. ran over Henry Aycock after a disagreement late last night. Now, Oscar is facing charges of felony murder and aggravated assault. Henry's body will be taken to the GBI crime lab in Macon for an autopsy.
Hey man, get out of the car! Get out of the car! There's a train coming! Get out of the car! There's a train!
With the train on the way, a Cobb County police officer pulls a sleeping man from a car stopped on the tracks. This happened back on July 24th, but the video was just released. They say that driver appeared to be asleep and the car doors were locked. A train was coming, so officers knew they had to act fast. They smashed the window, pulled the man from the train just moments before that train smashed into the car. The driver is now facing charges, including DUI. Developing now, oil from that overturned cargo ship has reached several parts of Georgia's shoreline. State and federal authorities overseeing the cleanup say crews have been working to clean up that oil at Quarantine Beach in the Brunswick area, among other places. More than 5,500 feet of an oil-absorbent boom are being used to try and contain pollution. The vessel was carrying 4,200 vehicles when it capsized in the St. Simons Sound on September 8th. Also developing, Boeing will soon begin compensating families of the victims of 2 737 MAX crashes. The company has set up a fund that officials say will address the family and community needs of those affected. The company pledged $100 million to that fund. The families of 346 victims will each get more than $144,000 each. Meanwhile, Boeing is facing numerous lawsuits and investigations linked to a 737 MAX. It's not clear if the plane will ever be allowed to fly again. Now to Washington tonight, and a thunderbolt of an announcement from Nancy Pelosi. Just after 5 p.m. today, the House Speaker told reporters she is formally commencing impeachment proceedings against President Trump. But House Republicans were quick to note that what Pelosi said didn't really move the ball farther down the field. Happening now, Sinclair investigative reporter James Rosen joining us from Capitol Hill with the very latest on this. James, good evening to you.
Good evening from a Capitol that has witnessed one shock after another, dating back to before the 2016 election. What's unclear tonight is whether the scandal at the heart of this new impeachment fever will have any staying power as new details emerge. Accusing President Trump of having betrayed his oath of office, the national security, and America's electoral system, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced the lower chamber is moving forward with impeachment proceedings.
I'm directing our 6 committees to proceed with their investigations under that umbrella of impeachment inquiry. The president must be held accountable. No one is above the law.
Having earlier addressed the UN General Assembly, the president again denied any impropriety in his July 25 phone call to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
There was no pressure applied, no nothing.
Shortly after an unidentified whistleblower in the intelligence community lodged a complaint deemed urgent and credible, published reports allege Mr. Trump withheld military aid to compel the government in Kyiv to probe business dealings there involving Hunter Biden, son of the former vice president and Democratic frontrunner. The president said he withheld the aid because of corruption in Ukraine and to get European nations to chip in.
So I said, hold it up, let's get other people to pay, and there was never any quid pro quo.
To Pelosi's announcement, Mr. Trump responded with a tweet storm. Such an important day at the United Nations, so much work and so much success, and the Democrats purposely had to ruin and demean it with more breaking news witch hunt garbage. So bad for our country. He added in all caps, presidential harassment.
What she said today made no difference of what's been going on. It's no different than what Nadler's been trying to do.
President Trump announced he will release the full transcript of his call with President Zelensky. House Democrats say that before Thursday, when the acting director of national intelligence testifies before Congress, they will also want to see the whistleblower's report. And that whistleblower, meantime, has made arrangements to speak with lawmakers behind closed doors. On Capitol Hill, James Rosen, back to you.
All right, James, thanks so much. And Congressman Sanford Bishop released a statement in support of the impeachment inquiry, saying in part, our republic was founded on the beliefs that the nation's leader should not be above the law. As such, the president is subject to checks and balances established by the Constitution. Members of Congress took an oath before God to uphold the Constitution, not to the president. And Republican Congressman Austin Scott also saying in a statement tonight, quote, unfortunately, Speaker Pelosi has succumbed to the belligerent left and their media allies to move forward with an impeachment inquiry against the president. Democrats continue to waste time and taxpayer dollars on endless investigations while refusing to address the many challenges that our nation faces.
Jake Mammon here in the Skywatch Weather Center with you guys on this Tuesday evening, time currently 10:18. Well, another hot day out there. It's finally fall, but it sure still feels like summer, and it goes to show you here with the high temperatures from today across both middle and southwest Georgia. In Macon, we set a record. Today's high was 98 degrees, which breaks the old record of a 96 set back several years ago. And in Albany, they broke a record today too, 98 degrees, which beats the old record of 97 as well. So it was a toasty day. Here's why though. Current setup right now, high pressure system sitting over the Mississippi River Valley with hot and dry conditions behind this front. And this front will begin to kind of dissipate over the next 24 hours, and these conditions will remain. So that's kind of what we're seeing. This kind of pattern right now with the ridge sitting over this part of the United States is going to keep us hot. It's going to keep us dry. Not much in the way of rainfall within the next week or so from this right here. And that's going to kind of stay in place at least until it starts to break down. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. Temperatures across middle Georgia right now, middle to upper 70s, 77 in Milledgeville, 77 there in Irwinton, 76 there in Macon, 80 still though in Roberta, and 79 there in Montezuma. Like I was talking about, we won't see the cool down that we're wanting to see, at least for fall. Right now, of course, the average temperature is 84, but we're well above that through the weekend and to begin October. And it's not uncommon to see 90s in October. In fact, the last 3 Octobers were in the 90s, and so we could see that, and we're definitely forecasting that for the next month here in Middle Georgia. Tomorrow's, as the kids head off to the bus stop, 68 for a temperature tomorrow at the bus stop, 87 at lunchtime, 94 there on the ride home. Southwest Georgia, temperatures a little bit warmer, 81 in Moultrie, 80 there in Albany, so it's a little bit warmer in Southwest Georgia. And the same goes for them as well down there in Southwest Georgia. Of course, upper 90s through the weekend, and then to start the month of October, we're in the mid to upper 90s as well in Southwest Georgia. For them, the kiddos heading off to the bus stop there, 73 by the time they head out, 89 by lunchtime, and I think highs near the mid to upper 90s for the ride home, but notice dry conditions. You ask where all the rain is? Well, it's off to the west and to the north. Up north, they got some severe weather down through Iowa and into Kansas and Nebraska, as well as coming into northern Oklahoma there. But back here in middle Georgia and southwest Georgia, we haven't seen rainfall since August, really. Southwest Georgia has seen more rainfall, but middle Georgia hasn't seen any measurable amounts of rainfall, at least for a month. And I don't see that in the 10-day forecast anytime soon. So for tomorrow, 97, 98s on Thursday and Friday. And then for the weekend, we're in the mid-90s. And to start October, mid-90s as well. Notice dry conditions pretty much for the next 10 days. Southwest Georgia, same thing, 97 on Wednesday. We'll do it again Thursday and Friday. And then as we head on into the weekend, cool down just a little bit into the mid-90s, but pretty much sunny and dry as we start the month of October in Southwest Georgia as well. Aaron?
All right, Jake, thanks. One of Fox's most popular shows returns tomorrow night with some changes for its second season. What you can expect for the premiere of The Masked Singer next. Trending tonight, a new group of celebrity singers will be performing under new extravagant costumes on the second season of Fox's hit show, The Masked Singer, tomorrow night. Here's a preview of what to expect this season.
The hit singing competition, The Masked Singer's back, only on Fox, upping the ante with more star power, new costumes, and a lot of clues.
Who's behind the mask? The talent level is, and I don't even know who's underneath it, but I hear like several Grammy Award winners, platinum recording artists, Emmy Award winners, all of them are behind these masks.
The outfits are stunning. In every episode, I go, oh, that's my favorite. And then the next one, I go, oh, no, wait, that one's my favorite. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, that was my favorite. You can't just pick. They're all beautiful. Oh, my God.
Jenny McCarthy, Robin Thicke, Ken Jeong, Nicole Scherzinger are all returning this season as judges, along with host Nick Cannon.
I'm grateful for the talent that has been brave enough to sign on, and they're putting their full hearts and everything into their performances.
16 celebrities, 4 more than the first season, are going undercover, and the hints will be harder.
The talent, I think they're a bit savvier this year, you know, picking up from the first season.
They're throwing their voices, they're changing their body characteristics and their physical nature, so we don't know who it is.
Last season, though, the clues kind of connected to their work. This is like trying to connect to their private hobbies that we know nothing about. I think the audience is going to see that it's much trickier this time around.
And to Jenny's point, I'm already confused.
And the guessing game begins tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with a 2-hour premiere right here on Fox. Jake.
Yeah, take a look at this. The storm heading to Puerto Rico has reached tropical storm status again. Tropical storm Karen was downgraded Monday to a tropical depression after the system weakened. It has since picked up steam, once again producing winds with sustained speeds of 40 miles per hour. The storm is expected to make landfall on the island Tuesday afternoon or today. Forecasters say most people will see 2 to 4 inches of rain, but some areas could get up to 8 inches. The Virgin Islands will also see rain and winds from the storm. Yeah, back here in the Skywatch Weather Center, actually going to give you an update on the tropics. Like I just said, Tropical Storm Karen over Puerto Rico right now, but we also have 2 more, Tropical Storm Jerry and Tropical Storm Lorenzo, and Lorenzo is starting to kind of pick up steam a little bit. The National Hurricane Center is monitoring an area in the Gulf of Mexico. It's got a 10% chance of becoming something tropical. But let's take a closer look at Tropical Storm Jerry, just to the west of Bermuda. The past 24 hours, it's kind of been spread apart a little bit, if you will. It's not as symmetrical anymore as it once was. Winds are still, though, 50 miles per hour and wind gusts up to 65. Current track takes it off to the north and east in the coming days, but it weakens as it heads into the weekend. Now, Tropical Storm Karen over Puerto Rico, it's kind of fluctuated over the last several days. It was a tropical depression on Monday. It strengthened into a tropical storm over to Puerto Rico right now, and its current track takes it to the north. And then kind of from there, as we head on into Thursday, kind of does a little bit of a spin and tries to head back towards the west. Of course, there is some uncertainty there with the models agreeing in the short term, but then as we head into kind of the last part of that 10 days, it kind of some uncertainty there. But of course, we'll continue to keep you ahead of the storm and keep you updated as the latest data comes in. Stick around, more news and weather coming up after this short break.
Tonight, 2 men are still on the run after the Bibb County Sheriff's Office says they robbed a woman at gunpoint in broad daylight. Jayla Whitfield's live at the scene where it all happened. Jayla, what are you learning tonight?
Aaron, the woman was robbed and carjacked right behind me in this CVS parking lot. Now, authorities tell me it happened around 10 a.m. on Sunday. We most recently just got this report about the incident. What I want to tell you guys is that 2 males approached her. They held a gun to her face, and then they said, "Don't do anything or I will shoot you." They took her phone, vehicle, and personal firearm that was stored in her car. Now, community members tell me they just can't believe anything like this would happen in North Macon.
I am totally shocked and surprised. This normally is a pretty crime-free area.
I was very shocked. It normally doesn't occur, especially in this neighborhood.
I think you have to always be careful, possibly. Carjacking is pretty rare, really.
Now, the crime was not caught on camera. There are no cameras outside of the CVS in the parking lot. There's only cameras inside. And also, deputies described the vehicle that was stolen as a Toyota RAV4 in a red 2019 model. Those suspects are still at large. There's 2 of them. And if you have any information, please contact the Bibb County Sheriff's Office. But for now, live in Macon, Jayla Whitfield.
Meteorologist Jake Mammon here in the Skywatch Weather Center on this Tuesday evening. Welcome in, guys. Well, how many of you are ready for some relief? I know I sure as heck am, but it is not going to be coming anytime soon. In fact, today we set a record in southwest Georgia. 98 degrees was our temperature today, which breaks the record by one set back in 1961. And it's been hot for the month of September, and it's going to continue for the rest of this month and into October. But in the rainfall category, we're doing okay, just above an inch of rain there in southwest Georgia. In fact, it kind of shows here on the drought monitor map. Areas shaded in yellow from Broxton down to Tifton, Nashville over to Camilla. Those areas are abnormally dry right now. Georgia, 65% of Georgia is in a drought, which is up 25 from last week. We'll have to wait until Thursday to get the new update, which I think more of areas in Georgia will be added to. Macon's high for today, 98, broke the record of 96 set back in 1993. And notice the rainfall category we're lacking here in Middle Georgia, only 0.02 of an inch. So not much in the way of rainfall here in Middle Georgia. And it's showing very well on the drought map. Areas in the beige color are severe drought. So with not much rain in the forecast, the dry conditions as well as the heat, the wildfire risk is going to increase across Middle Georgia, so be mindful of that. Coming up in just a few minutes, still feels like summer. I'll have more on the heat and how long it will last. Any rain in sight, I'll show you guys that as well, and a tropical update. That and much more coming up in just a few minutes, Aaron.
Happening now, more money could be coming to Dublin City school teachers, but some residents are worried this could mean it comes from property owners' pockets. Officials with the Dublin-Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce released a statement letting residents know the City Council and the Board of Education passed a joint resolution. Well, this resolution would call for the public to vote in November about whether the school district could get a bond, which would be used to raise teacher salaries. Now, Chamber of Commerce officials say if the bond gets approved, property taxes could increase. Superintendent Dr. Fred Williams says the language is written that way, as with any bond language in the U.S., but he says the city will not increase property taxes.
As we look at this bond referendum and being able to make sure that we are competitive in attracting teachers and retaining teachers would involve in increasing their compensation.
Williams adds this is simply just bond terminology and will help attract a better teacher workforce and pay teachers what they deserve. The Justice Department says 11 more physicians have been charged in the opioid addiction crisis. Charges come from the Appalachian Region Prescription Strike Force, which monitors prescription data from doctors to check for any fraudulent practices. Well, the head of the Justice Department's criminal division says the cases involve patients paying off doctors to write them prescriptions. The doctors are accused of running pill mills that distributed more than 17 million narcotic pills. So far, a total of 87 medical professionals have been charged. 9, we know, have pleaded guilty. CBD is one of the most popular and controversial new cure-alls on the market. It's a cannabis derivative that's in everything from coffee to night cream. And tonight, senior investigative reporter Lisa Fletcher reports on a troubling find when it comes to the labeling of these products that may be causing people to lose their jobs for drugs they never actually took.
It's sold as the solution to stress and insomnia and promises pain relief without a prescription. CBD may well be a miracle cure of the future, but is presently a problem for consumers who don't know what they're getting into.
How surprised were you when you tested positive for THC after using CBD?
Basically, I was shocked. Everything I read on the internet said there's no chance of testing positive for THC.
When Lester Garbitz was randomly drug tested at his job, he thought he had nothing to worry about.
I'm not a drug user, I don't use drugs. I was doing something that I thought was perfectly legal, something that would not trip a positive THC test.
What he didn't know was that the CBD oil he had been taking for arthritis and glaucoma also contained THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana that registers positive on drug tests. Lester worked as an engineer for Specialty Tires, and like many companies, it has a zero-tolerance drug policy. He was fired immediately.
The employers are in a very difficult situation because they're facing contradictory laws.
Peter Myers is a law professor who specializes in drugs and the law. He says even though marijuana is legal in many states, federal law looms large.
Somebody can be fully complying with their state law and violating the federal law, and employers are firing them for that reason.
Myers says the wide availability of CBD gives consumers the impression it's safe and legal.
Federal regulators haven't dealt very well with this. Certainly more information on labeling would be desirable and would give people a much better warning of what risks they face.
Whose job would it be to require that?
Well, that's one of the problems, that everybody's passing the buck.
The CBD industry is essentially unregulated. This means that ingredients can vary wildly, and even products that advertise as THC-free could contain it. We were given access to the largest series of lab tests done on CBD products by Ellipse Analytics, and found more than half of the 200 products tested were inaccurately labeled, and a quarter of them, more than 50 products, falsely claimed THC-free.
A lot of products make THC-free claims because they want to assure consumers that there's nothing wrong with the product they're making, that they're not going to fail a drug test for taking it. We find that THC-free claims are false about a quarter of the time.
As Lisa Fletcher reporting there. The abortion debate heating up again as a lawsuit challenging a mandatory waiting period is argued in federal court. Straight ahead, the testimony today and what's supposed to happen later this week. A federal judge is set to hear arguments over whether Georgia's restrictive new abortion law should be allowed to take effect while a legal challenge is pending. Lawyers with the American Civil Liberties Union, Planned Parenthood, and the Center for Reproductive Rights filed a constitutional challenge. They asked a judge to stop the law from becoming enforceable while litigation is pending. Now, lawyers for the state have argued that the law is constitutional and should be allowed to take effect as planned on January 1st. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar is encouraging world leaders to expand access to health care without the inclusion of terms such as reproductive health and rights. He delivered these remarks at a meeting on universal health coverage during the United Nations General Assembly in New York City just yesterday.
To make the most meaningful progress without delay or dissension, we respectfully call on member states to join us in concentrating on topics that unite rather than divide on the critical issues surrounding access to health care. We do not support references to ambiguous terms and expressions, such as sexual and reproductive health and rights in UN documents, because they can undermine the critical role of the family and promote practices like abortion in circumstances that do not enjoy international consensus and which can be misinterpreted by UN agencies.
And new tonight, the abortion debate in Tennessee is heating up again as a lawsuit challenging the 48-hour mandatory waiting period is argued in federal court. The judge heard testimony from Planned Parenthood today, and the state is set to present its case later this week. Kathleen Suri with our sister station in Nashville explains what's at stake.
5 years ago, Sparkle Johnson found out she was pregnant right as she was trying to get out of an abusive relationship.
So the last thing I needed was another baby.
She scheduled an abortion and went through the waiting period, but on the day of the procedure, she changed her mind.
And I got up and left.
Now, Brent is her entire world. Johnson says she's thankful for the time she had to think and believes Tennessee's mandatory 48-hour abortion delay is necessary.
Women, especially pregnant women, we're full of hormones, and we do a lot of things on impulse. And that's a lifetime regret of an impulse decision. So everyone should wait. Now, what you choose to do is fine, but you should wait.
Elise Cruz, who had a surgical abortion in 2012, disagrees with the required wait and hopes this week's trial results in the state law being struck down.
In that moment, I personally was like, I am pregnant and do not wish to be for a variety of reasons. And that sort of wait period told me that, like, you know what, we don't trust you to make decisions for yourself.
This mandatory forced delay for health care is demeaning to women. Women don't need politicians to dictate how they and their families are going to get their health care and going to determine the size of their families.
The trial is set to last throughout the week.
Families still mourning after losing a child in a hot car. Straight ahead, their plea to other parents to stop this from happening again.
From the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Lindsay Mastis.
A U.S. Army soldier is facing charges after allegedly discussing targeting a presidential candidate and a major news agency. Army Private Jarrett Smith is based at Fort Riley in Kansas. The 24-year-old faces charges of distributing information related to explosives and weapons of mass destruction. Court documents show he discussed targeting Beto O'Rourke, CNN, cell towers, a local news station, and far left-leaning Antifa activists with an undercover FBI agent. Facebook's chief operating officer, Sheryl Sandberg, met with New Zealand's prime minister and spoke about the social network's new efforts to prevent the spread of online extremism.
Because we have to react as quickly to situations like Christchurch as we do to natural disasters or any other moment where urgency is so important.
The alleged gunman live-streamed part of that attack on 2 mosques in Christchurch, killing more than 50. From the Terrorism Alert Desk in Washington, I'm Lindsay Mastis.
(1046) Health officials in Buncombe County in North Carolina say as of today there have been 9 confirmed cases of Legionnaire's disease reported and at least 1 death caused by the illness. The investigation into the cases is ongoing, but health officials are now working with the organizers of a fair to investigate a possible connection of these cases with attendance at that fair earlier this month. A Tennessee woman says she contracted flesh-eating bacteria from a nail salon, and tonight she's warning other women after crediting hospital staff with saving her life. Janie Sharp of Knoxville says she was getting a manicure earlier this year when she felt a prick, but initially wasn't concerned. But within 2 hours, Sharp says she started to feel a little different. She had 2 surgeries in Knoxville and another surgery in Nashville. New tonight, a shampoo bottle left inside of a hot car in Missouri wound up leaving quite the mess. That bottle exploded, shot through the sunroof, and left the vehicle's interior heavily damaged. Well, the car belongs to a 19-year-old woman. Her family didn't know what caused the damage when they first saw it. The family realized white residue inside the car was dry shampoo. They found the bottle 50 feet away. A warning label on that bottle says not to heat the product. The woman's mother wants to make sure others heed that warning. New details tonight surrounding the death of a little boy accidentally left in a hot car for hours. The medical examiner says it could take months before they release an official cause of death. Robert Price with our sister station in San Antonio, Texas, has more.
Truly, there's not a day or a week that goes by that we don't contemplate, how old would she be right now?
It's been 18 years since Cindy Quinn lost her daughter Callie to heat stroke. The 2-year-old was riding home with her dad and brother and sister.
They had unbuckled her and both kids got out the car, but she laid down. And so that's why my husband never saw her.
Callie fell asleep in the car, and hours would go by before anyone noticed.
This is an accident that can happen to anyone.
It's a sad situation.
Over the weekend, on the far west side, 3-year-old Liam Ordonez became the 43rd child to die this year, left in a hot car.
One parent thought the other parent had brought the little boy inside.
When I heard about it Saturday, I go, man, another one.
Jerry Garcia is doing what he can to change that.
It keeps happening over and over.
He started posting these signs.
It says, forgetting something, take us with you.
Restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores.
Before you leave your car, everybody do, if you got other kids, relatives, everybody just check.
His message now spreading.
I go, it's to save lives.
From Stockdale and Sutherland Springs to Lavernia and China Grove.
We want everybody to be aware.
All the way into San Antonio.
Everywhere I go, even if I'm traveling, I'll stop somewhere and ask if I can put one at their front door. And they always say yes.
If we can avoid that pain of a child needlessly being left behind, then whatever message we can share, we will share it.
Meteorologist Jake Mammon here in the Skywatch Weather Center on this Tuesday evening. Welcome on in, guys. Well, it was another record day across Middle Georgia and Southwest Georgia. Let's start up here in Middle Georgia. 98 degrees was a high temperature today, which breaks the record of 96 here in Middle Georgia. And for Albany, they also broke a record. 98, which breaks the record of 97 degrees. So it was a record-setting day across portions of Middle and Southwest Georgia, and the heat will remain through the rest of this week, and we could see mid to upper 90s even starting the month of October. More on that in just a second. Right now, though, here's why it's kind of been hot. We've seen this pattern. Really, the high-pressure system has been holding strong. We call it a ridge that sits over the Mississippi River Valley or the southeast, where we see the hot and dry conditions remain. We've got a cold front right now, but this will begin to kind of dissipate and move on out of the mid-state, and this will settle in, and we'll see the dry conditions, clear skies, and not much in the way of rainfall. I think there's going to be a little bit of a disturbance that kind of moves from the west to the east, but it's mainly going to impact portions of northern Georgia. So here in central Georgia and southwest Georgia, not going to see much in the way of rainfall, keeping temperatures in the mid to upper 90s. Right now, though, across middle Georgia, we're starting to cool off, a little mild out there. 77 in Sparta, 76 in Macon, 77 in Warner Robins, 76 there in Cochran, and 79 in Americus. I was talking about the temperature trend, though. The average right now is 84. We're going to be well above that for the rest of this week. And as we head on into the month of October, it's not uncommon to see 90s in the month of October. In fact, the last 3 Octobers, the past 3 years, we have seen 90s in October, and we're going to probably see it again for Middle Georgia. The school bus stop forecast tomorrow as the kids head off to school, 68, and then by lunchtime we're in the upper 80s, and in southwest Georgia, or in Middle Georgia, excuse me, we're going to be in the mid to upper 90s for the ride home. Temperatures in southwest Georgia a little bit warmer, 80 in Ashburn, 80 there in Albany, 83 though in Newton, so slow to cool off, and the same goes for southwest Georgia. Not going to be seeing any relief from the heat. We're going to see mid to upper 90s through the rest of this week and as we start the month of October. The school day forecast as the kids head off to the bus stop in southwest Georgia, 73 for the bus stop, 89 by the lunch hour, and then mid to upper 90s again for our highs in southwest Georgia. So not much different from middle Georgia, and notice the dry conditions. Well, you ask where all that rain and storms are. Well, they're off to the west and to the north. Got a line of storms from all the way up in Wisconsin, down through Iowa, into Kansas and Nebraska and Oklahoma, and that's where it is, and it's not going to be making its way here anytime soon. In fact, there's not much in the way of rainfall in both 10-day forecasts. Let's take a look at Middle Georgia, 97 for tomorrow, a couple of 98s Thursday and Friday, and then as we head into the weekend, we're in the mid-90s on Saturday and Sunday, and then to start the month of October, we're in the mid-90s. The same goes for southwest Georgia, a pair of 97s through the rest of this week, and then Saturday, 95. More news and weather coming up after this short break. Take a look at this. We're going to go overseas for this one. The skies over an Indonesian province turned blood red as the toxic haze from fires continues to spread across the country. Videos and images circulating on social media show villages completely blanketed by a haze in the middle of the day. More than 800,000 acres have been burned across Indonesia in recent weeks. The raging fires have forced hundreds of residents to evacuate, according to the country's National Board for Disaster Management. Crazy stuff there, and that goes to show you what smoke from fires can do. Back here in the Skywatch Weather Center, we're talking about the tropics. I got an update for you. We got 3 tropical storms, okay? Jerry, Karen, and Lorenzo right now. Let's take a look at Jerry. It's west of Bermuda, and its current track's going to take it off to the east. Not really concerning. Notice over the coming days, though, it becomes weaker and weaker as we head on into the weekend. Tropical Storm Karen, currently over Puerto Rico. It's fluctuated in intensity. It was a tropical depression on Monday, but it is now a tropical storm with winds of 45 miles per hour. Its current track's going to take it to the north over the coming days, and then by Thursday, it's going to try and do a little bit of a spin and try and make its way toward the west. So right now, the models agree in the short term, taking it north, but as we get to the end of the 7 to 10 day mark, you can see there's some uncertainty there and some dynamics that start to kick in. And of course, we'll continue to monitor it as well as bring you the latest data as it comes in and keep you ahead of the storm. Aaron?
All right, Jake, thanks so much. Hey, finally tonight, in honor of Halloween and the new Addams Family movie, IHOP has 4 new items named after members of the Addams Family. You've got Wednesday's Web Cakes, which are buttermilk pancakes topped with Hershey's chocolate syrup, white icing, and violet whipped cream. Or you could grab Gomez's green chili omelet. There's also Uncle Fester's chocolate ice cream shake and Morticia's haunted hot chocolate. You can order up these new menu items through November 3rd. I would take the omelet, but I'm kind of curious to see what the hand would.
That's interesting.
What the hand
but
would
IHOP
create
always
there.
comes up with some creative stuff.
Yeah, they know how to get us talking.
They know how to.
That guerrilla marketing, as they call it. So
it's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That is all the time we have on this Tuesday evening. As always, thank you so much for watching.
Daily Mail is next. Have a good night, everyone.